another episode of Zone Coverage. I'm Cody Schoeler here with Ryan Rue as always. And unlike the second half of the Kansas City Chiefs and Buffalo Bills game, we're coming to you right on time, not an hour late. That really kind of killed some momentum going after a great Sunday. Started off in the wee hours, 6:30 a.m. over here. Whatever, I don't know what time it was in London. Started off in London, ended, over 12 hours later. So we had a good game, a good week of games on Sunday, and we are going to discuss it with you right now. We are going to start with our takeaways. I'll let you take it away. Yeah, you can start.
Well, like you said, this weekend was yet again very interesting. I don't think we've had a week that hasn't been, somewhat. There's a really good story with like every weekend. It seems like
there's always some good games.
Last weekend there was a lot of upsets. The Jets got their first win, things like that. And then this week I had quite a few injuries as well as some top dogs kind of go down. But in terms of my takeaways, I got my first takeaway here, and that's the fight for Los Angeles football is real. I mean, you got the Rams in the Rams in the NFC, Chargers in the AFC. Both these teams are 4-1 right now. Both these teams look incredible. Obviously, the Rams had to play a very hot Cardinals team for their first loss, and the Chargers' loss was against I can't remember, the Dallas.
Cowboys.
So both lost to very good football teams. Both have very dynamic offenses, and both of their defenses are doing very, very well. So, I mean, the fact that Los Angeles sports just as a whole it feels like it's come full circle almost in terms of basketball, baseball, hockey, and now football. Even if you want to count the MLS with their free agency, intrigue for different players. But this is going to be the rivalry that I'm going to watch for the rest of the season, is who's going to be the number one team in Los Angeles, because right now either of these teams could very well represent their conference in February.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly something to watch. And, there's 7 4-1 or better teams, obviously, with the Cardinals in there. And then that's not including the Ravens, who are 3-1 playing tonight, which we'll get around to. So, I mean, they're freaking in it. I mean, the fact that these two teams in the same city are two of the better teams is kind of impressive. We knew the Rams are going to be here. They've been here recently. But the Chargers were, something we weren't sure about. We knew they were up and coming. They got a new head coach. They obviously have Justin Herbert, one of the best young quarterbacks and only getting better in the league. But, they're finally there. And so it's good to see them. Unfortunately, the Rams have some support. The Chargers really don't have a lot of fans, which sucks because they're such a good team. So maybe, they'll start.
Rams have a history in LA, and Chargers are just trying to develop like their Los Angeles kind of foundations, but they're pulling in the San Diego crowd at least.
And plus, when they came to LA, the Rams got better a little bit quicker. The Chargers were kind of struggling, so all the up for grabs free agent LA fans probably went to the Rams and are sticking there. So this could hopefully they're starting to get some young people in there that love watching Justin Herbert and become fans of this team. But yeah, I mean, although they don't play each other, it's not a rivalry that will play out on the field unless a Super Bowl matchup. LA in LA would be, that would just be incredible.
Super Bowl in LA this year?
Yeah, it's in LA.
Oh, man.
I mean, Inglewood and
last year we got the first ever home game in a Super Bowl. Yeah. This year, give me both the teams from that respective city to play. That would be incredible.
Tampa Bay was the away team last year, but they were playing.
Come on now.
Technically because they had the worst record. So technically they were away in their own stadium, but first team to win it in their home stadium. If it's a long ways away, but a lot of teams to go through. But I don't know, just the idea.
I just want to say one more thing about this LA rivalry. The Rams have what I think to be the worst jerseys in the entire league, and the Chargers I think have arguably the best jerseys.
Their powder blues are nice.
So I give the edge to the Chargers in that department, but I wish we could see these two teams play each other. I don't know if they play.
No, they don't. I just looked.
Oh,
I don't believe they do.
I used to have the idea that So there's 2 teams that play in New York. There's 2 teams that play in LA
Uh-huh.
now. Every time that the Giants and Jets, I feel like since there's a week 17 now, the extra game, I understand there's an algorithm for the schedule and things like that, but the extra game for this New York or either the New York teams or either the Los Angeles teams, have it be a Jets versus Giants, have it be a Chargers versus Rams. And I want to see like one end zone say Chargers, the other one say Rams. And I want like half of the logo in midfield and the other half of the other logo in midfield. I would love to have like a city rivalry kind of week 17 deal in the future, but I think both these teams are definitely able to have a huge rivalry.
Yeah, they're certainly contenders. I want to move on to probably the biggest thing to come out of this week, I would say, is that kicking isn't easy. It might actually be difficult, and to the point where the professionals can't even do it, because especially that early slate of games was just defined by missed extra points. I mean, 12 missed PATs all day, which are all week, including one on Thursday. We still got a game to go, but I don't think Justin Tucker's missing one. But 12 missed PATs, that ties a record. 12 missed field goals. And then, of course, the Packers and the Bengals, which was a game that everybody was trying to win except the kickers. You had 4 missed game-winning kicks, 2 right at the end of the fourth quarter, then 2 at the start, 2 in overtime. I mean, the fact that we got to a 4th possession in overtime is incredible. Finally, Mason Crosby, decided to put one through. But, it happens throughout the year. You get there's games lost by missed kicks and missed extra points all the time. But it's just, you've got Justin Tucker making a 66-yard game-winning field goal, and then you've got guys missing PATs, and just culminating in that Bengals-Packers game that was just one of the grossest finishes to a game. It's just, this is kind of where we're at. Having a kicker is a legitimate advantage, like having a guy that can make a kick. We saw the Vikings, come down the field and beat the Lions.
Kickers should ever play for Minnesota is basically what,
he made it this week. He made the game winner. He missed it a few weeks ago against the Cardinals, but it's just like, you never know who you're going to get with a kicker. So, yeah, I mean, you couldn't help watching those early slate of games and not just realizing I just missed extra point after missed extra point. It was incredible.
So I'm trying to look up Mason Crosby's kind of historical stats here, because I could have sworn he had a game similar to this last year, or was it different?
It was either last year or the year before, like the first game of the season.
I think it may have been like the Rams kicker or something like that, but there was a kicker who missed like 4 straight field, or no, it was the Titans, I think. I think the Titans kicker missed like 4 field goals and ended up making one at the end to like win the game. But like there was a similar game like this last year where a kicker missed a ton of kicks and almost cost them.
Crosby did it
in 2018. Yeah, I was looking at.
Was that 2018?
Yeah, it was a game against Detroit. He went 1 for 5 against Detroit in 2018.
Yeah,
I want to say it was a kicker from the Rams or the Titans that had a similar game. Those games kind of happen, it seems like, for veteran kickers. Even like it could happen to Vinatieri for all we know. I mean, you could count on one hand the amount of times it's happened, but like
the Cincinnati guy's a rookie.
That was awesome.
With a big leg.
Made a winner last week, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just like the consistency is so weird because, he makes a game winner, then he misses 2. The Minnesota guy a few weeks ago, misses a game winner. Now he makes one. It's just like, other than Justin Tucker, you just can't be confident when your kicker goes out there, really, I feel like. You just
other than the kicker, how much of these missed kicks can you blame on maybe the holes, maybe the snap, maybe the offensive line keeping the edge?
I mean, I don't think any of them were blocked.
Even like having the edge rushers come in and being like a hair away from blocking it, that could trigger a kicker to
like the field goals I get, but it's like the extra points. Extra points should be money, same spot every time. Like you should have that down.
They should be.
You shouldn't be missing.
I think they can pick where it goes within the hash marks as well on the extra kick.
But yeah, I mean, like it's the same spot every time. They should have those down. But yeah, we can move on to your next takeaway and not talk about missed kicks anymore because I'm sure that's just exhilarating.
So I want to talk about the Broncos a little bit here because I think, fans, me included, well, not a fan of the Broncos, but, speculators were kind of wrong about the Broncos. I mean, obviously they started off 3-0 against almost winless teams, right? Because they beat.
It was Giants, then it was Jets, then it was.
So they were all winless at the time.
Yeah. Right, Jaguars, I think.
Yeah, they were all winless at the time, but
and not just winless, but some of the worst teams, like
right.
Because obviously the Giants week 1, nobody's going to have a win. So, you could, shake that however you wanted, but they're all pretty bad.
Jacksonville and New York back to back,
Yeah.
Anybody should be able to beat those teams, right? Even the Lions. Crossing my fingers for them. Let me down once again. But going up against good teams, or at least formidable teams in Pittsburgh, right? They're not amazing, but, playing on the road in Pittsburgh, it's not an easy environment to play in. We all seem to be kind of wrong about this Broncos team because they started off 3-0, now they're 3-2. And I look at the games remaining in the season. I think they could probably split their record against Oakland or Las Vegas. That's going to happen every week, I swear.
It's been long enough, man.
So the Broncos are going to split the record with Las Vegas, and then Chargers. I don't think they take them. I think the Chiefs will probably beat them both times as well.
I mean, it's the division matchups. You never know.
Depending on how Cincinnati does by December, they could possibly lose that game in Cincinnati. They have to go on the road in Cleveland in 2 weeks. Don't see that being a win. Go on the road in Dallas. Don't see that as a win. It's really the AFC West that's killing them. This is kind of what affected Arizona these past couple of years. They were a fun team, a young team, a borderline good team, but you're playing against amazing teams in your division. So they're kind of getting the bad end of the stick here. But I don't see many wins for the rest of the season. I think they got their gimmies early on, but
I mean,
this team, a lot of people thought they were going to be a wild card, potentially, but I don't see it happening anymore.
They probably only need 6 wins to get in that wild card conversation. 9 wins might get you there in the AFC. So, I mean, they play Washington, Detroit, like you mentioned, Cincinnati, Philadelphia. Like, they've got winnable games if they just, steal one from Las Vegas and one from, either LA or Kansas City.
I think they'll split that matchup with Las Vegas.
Like
the Chargers right now, the Chiefs will definitely find the answer. I don't see it happening.
I mean, yeah, but also one of those. I mean, they play one of them in the last week. Who knows what they're resting or whatever? But I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't think that they're this legitimate contender. I really was not very bullish on them to begin with. They were good, but I didn't think they were really what their record said they were. They kind of have proven that. I think they're solid. They're probably around a 500 team. Maybe with a little bit of luck, they get to 9 wins. But yeah, I mean,
they can't be 500 anymore. So are they?
Yeah, I mean, that's they're like. I mean, I use that as like a not a quantitative but a qualitative thing. Like they're like a.
They could finish 1 win over or 1 win under.
Like I use that as like they're a middle of the road. Like they're not great, they're not terrible. They're kind of like an average team. So
like their potential of making the playoffs, I would say, is very similar to New England's potential to make the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean they're fighting for the same spot.
Right. So, yeah,
it's that final AFC wild card. So that's probably what it comes down to. I want to move on to a team you mentioned, Arizona, who had been, in that situation. They are no longer in that situation. They're 5-0. And, my big takeaway from this game was that their defense is good enough. I find it really important to see a team win in different ways. If you're always just, winning shootouts and stuff, that's great. But I want to see if you can win on your worst games. I want to see if you can struggle in this area and still pull out a win. And 17-10 against the Niners, it's not what they had been doing. They've been putting up a lot of points. The Niners defense kind of held them in check a little bit. But if you're, looking at this, the defense, they've held 4 of their 5 opponents to 20 points or less. One of them being the Rams, who, were just killing everybody up to that point. They also, controlled Derrick Henry in that week 1 matchup, which nobody has proven to do since. And then, just some 5 interceptions, which is tied for 6th, 12 sacks, tied for 10th. This defense isn't anything incredible, but they're really solid, and they've got names. They've got J.J. Watt and Chandler Jones. They've got Budda Baker, and, Isaiah Simmons is looking a lot better. Like, they've got the playmakers to do something. And, when your offense has Kyler Murray and, this group of receivers, you don't need to have this incredible defense. You just need to, get some takeaways, make some plays, and that's what they're doing so far.
All the questions that people put on Arizona throughout the first 5 weeks of the season, I think, have all been answered. Week 1, Chandler Jones gets 5 sacks. They're like, oh, wow, this team is really good at the pass rush. Can they fulfill, their destiny in the offensive side of the ball? Kyler Murray has a hot first, 3 weeks with him and DeAndre Hopkins. Oh, okay, it's Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins. Can he work with any other receiver? I mean, it's easy to have the number 1 receiver play for you. Then he gets Christian Kirk involved. He gets A.J. Green involved.
It's Rondale Moore. Rondale Moore had an incredible catch on the sideline. Just an absolute toe dragger, and this dude's a rookie that, is stepping up and making plays.
Can they get the run game involved? James Conner got a score this past weekend, and I think he had one the previous weekend.
He had 2, I think, 2 weeks ago.
And then it's, okay, well, Chandler Jones has been basically invisible since week 1. He hasn't had any more sacks. What do we do from here? Well, they got 3 interceptions with Brian Murphy. We also have Isaiah Simmons getting a takeaway. This pass rush isn't as hot as it was out the gate, but you have multiple people with interceptions and takeaways. And face it, this team knows how to stop the premier offenses, just like you said with Derrick Henry and with Los Angeles Rams. And they can beat tough defenses like San Fran. Granted, they were going against a rookie in his first ever start, but this team is not similar to a Pittsburgh situation from last year, and I hope people don't place that title on them. Like, oh, Pittsburgh was 11-0. Why is nobody talking about them? Well, the schedule could kind of be in their favor at times last year. This year with the Cardinals, that's not the case.
They're beating good teams.
It's a good team. Obviously, the schedule has worked in their favor in terms of the teams that they can beat, excluding the Rams game. But it's like,
but getting the Rams,
for any team is impressive, regardless
getting the
of
Rams after Tampa Bay was good for them to get them. But yeah, and I mean, we've seen, I'm going to talk about the Chiefs in a little bit, but like if the Chiefs had this Arizona defense, they might be 5-0 right now. Like when you have an offense that's that good, you just need a solid defense, middle of the pack defense, and especially turnovers, turnovers, get sacks, get them behind the line of scrimmage. Like that's all you need when you've got, Kyler freaking Murray and, that offense. So I think that's the thing. And just watching this game where it's like, okay, they can do what they needed to. I mean, San Francisco was 1 for 5 on 4th down conversions. Like they stepped up and made plays, that defense, when they needed to. And so it's giving me some confidence in, okay, this isn't just a team that's going to go out there and is going to need to, have a shootout and outscore every offense. They can, win a low scoring, closer game.
It's going to be exciting to see what the NFC West turns into going on in the season, because I think the Seahawks are pretty much out of the running. It doesn't matter if Russell Wilson was going to miss a month or 2 months or have played next weekend. It doesn't look like they're going to find the answer anytime soon, and they're already too far behind. They're not necessarily in the Chiefs boat because the Chiefs are the Chiefs, but in the NFC West, the best division of football, they're already out of the race. So now it's between San Fran, who is still kind of half and half on Trey Lance. Is he the option going forward? Were they just testing him out? Was Jimmy G just not able to play? Rams and Cardinals, man. 2 of the probably top 5 teams in the NFL right now are going neck and neck in that division. I just want to see how that's going to turn out. Arizona hasn't won the division in over a decade, I believe.
Probably not since the Super Bowl. They went to the Super Bowl, not win it. But yeah.
They might have won it in like the 2010s, like early on, but
maybe.
I could be
All right, you want your next one? Let's get to it.
Yeah, so let's see. We could talk about the Raiders a little bit here. I think the Raiders might be cooling off a bit. Not saying that they're not a playoff team. I think this is like a wild card team, but they've kind of, teams have gotten the best of them these past 2 weekends, right? Obviously, they had a fantastic start, some really thrilling games, but I don't see how this team can lose to the Bears. I mean, I know that the Rams allow sacks. They have one of the worst offensive lines in the league, and they're playing one of the best pass rush, actually the number one team in sacks, the Chicago Bears. But you got Justin Fields in the backfield, who I love Justin Fields, and I hope he becomes very successful in this league. But we all know it's not going to be a great year for Justin. Much like it's not going to be a great year for Zach Wilson and Trevor Lawrence. You should beat those teams not only because of their roster, but because of who they have, throwing the football. Obviously, the Raiders had to play a red-hot Chargers team last year, like I said, in a very competitive AFC West division. But this game against Chicago should have been a win because next week I could see them possibly winning that Denver game. Definitely winning Philadelphia, winning New York. But if they could have had a 4-0 stretch from Chicago to 3 weeks from now, they would have been right there in the passenger seat, I think, with the Chargers. But losing this game to Chicago, being a game behind in the AFC West or the NFC West is like you're 2 games or 3 games behind. It doesn't equate the same thing. And I think they're cooling off a little bit. I hope they find the answer next weekend.
Yeah, I mean, we saw what the Raiders were doing, coming from behind in every single game, just this resiliency that was, impressive. And was,
without a score for Derek Carr. He had 2 touchdowns, 2 passing touchdowns in each of his last 4 games. Nothing against this Bears defense.
Yeah, but, and I think we knew this wasn't sustainable. You can't win like that every game. You have to have games where you are just leading and you win them. You can't, come from behind every single game. You can't play, 17 close games because it's just going to, drain your team. You're not going to be able to do it. And, the defense has been solid. They've been playing well. Max Crosby looks really good on the edge, but the defense I don't think is there.
Oh, I'm thinking Mason Crosby. Okay. Max Crosby.
No, Max Crosby.
Okay. I was like,
Mason Crosby. Yeah. But, the defense, can probably be good enough to, get one of those wild card spots. But, yeah, we're going to have to see, that offense we knew wasn't going to average 400-something passing yards a game. So, it's going to happen. But, they still got a decent stretch. They can still rack together some wins. And, they have 3 wins. So, 7 more wins, 6 more wins, 9, 10
Much
wins.
Like you said, Broncos are a 500 team. I think this is a slightly above 500 team. This is a double-digit win-capable team.
Yeah, for sure. I want to go to another team in that division that I mentioned, the Kansas City Chiefs, and it's just the Kansas City Chiefs have problems. And I'm, not blaming Mahomes really for any of it. He's got some mistakes in there, but just watching that game, I mean, there's just some guys are just dropping some balls. Not just everybody, but
Tyreek Hill,
Tyreek Hill.
5-yard pass, something like that on a drag route. Like you're an all-pro. I think he's an all-pro receiver. You might as well damn well be. But
he is.
How's that go right through your hands?
Another one on a 3rd down. It was a kind of over the middle to Hill. He drops it. Even Kelsey's got a few drops. It's just
it was a 4th down that he passed to Hartman, I believe.
Hardman. Yeah. Dropped. And I mean, just even beyond that, I mean, so Mahomes has 6 interceptions. I haven't gone through and watched all of them. I know, one hit some hands. I'm sure there's some other ones throwing some drops, and then, a couple of fumbles. I mean, the guy, was it Pringle, fumbles on the kickoff? Like, they're costing Mahomes some stuff. And against a team like the Bills, you can't be making mistakes because the Chiefs have a terrible defense and they don't get those mistakes back. They haven't had a great defense their whole time with Mahomes, but a few years ago they got a lot of turnovers. They could get the ball back, and that's all you need. The kind of
13 Chiefs defense was, obviously the Seahawks defense was the one to beat at that time, but the Kansas City defense was right there in second place.
But even 2018 and 2019, like they were giving up a lot of yards and, were allowing some points, but they would get picks. They would, get fumbles. They'd get sacks, Tyrann Mathieu getting interceptions and plays like that. But, which helps because, you get Mahomes the ball back. It's, likely to be a score. But the defense is doing that last year. They've given up the most points in the NFL, which is not what you want to see. And so they've got a lot of issues. I think we saw kind of that happen last year. We saw the wheels fall off, and they've fallen off a bit more. But, there's still, don't count them out. 2-3, I don't care. They're probably still in the playoffs. I don't see them not making the playoffs. But, in a league where there's a lot of young and up-and-coming teams that are seemingly, more complete teams, it doesn't seem like the easy path that they may have had previously. And so, they just, stop dropping it, stop fumbling it, stop, letting the ball go through your hands. Defense needs to step up, obviously, without Chris Jones and L'Jarius Sneed, but still, playing the Bills, it's like, yeah, they're playing a great team, but, it's the Chiefs. You are supposed to be made to beat these teams. You're supposed to be, able to beat these teams. So the fact that they're not is really concerning.
I mean, I see some games later on in their season going against Green Bay. I don't think they could take down Green Bay in 4 weeks. I think the Aaron Rodgers, Devonte Adams connection against a dismal Chiefs defense, that might be too much for them to handle. And Patty Mahomes I think Patty Mahomes will figure things out. Yes, he has the same amount of interceptions that he has from last year, but the guy's getting paid $500 million.
Okay. I mean, he's also got the most passing touchdowns. Like, he's still playing well. Like, I put, 5% on this. Like, I'm not blaming him. I don't think he's the problem.
Right. I'm watching the game last night with my parents, and my dad goes, I don't think Patrick Mahomes is just not that good. I'm like,
no.
I believe currently, all time, he has the highest passer rating of all time, just currently. Who knows if that's going to be where it turns out, but just the amount of touchdowns he gets and the amount of mistakes he does not make, he is obviously the best quarterback in this league. Nobody can dispute that. Obviously, Tom Brady is the most experienced, the most knowledgeable, arguably, right? Him and Aaron Rodgers. Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the league. And once again, Patrick Mahomes can get the ball to his receivers. Like you said, it's not really his fault. Tyreek Hill should not be dropping a drag route on it wasn't even a no-look pass. You can't even blame it on that anymore. I know I did a couple weeks ago, right? So it's not Patrick Mahomes' fault. So I know he'll figure things out. The defense has to figure things out. Don't make this team become Dallas from last year, where Dak Prescott is throwing 400-plus yards a game, and he has to do a two-minute drill at the end of the game to save his team. Don't turn into the Cowboys. This team is not the Cowboys. I mean, speaking of the Cowboys, as it goes very well into my next takeaway, this Cowboys team, I think, is shocking all non-Cowboys fans. I think everybody knows what I mean when I say that. I think Cowboys fans are actually, thinking they're going to probably win the Super Bowl at this rate, but everybody else is, on planet Earth. I don't want to jump the gun on Dallas too much here, but in terms of the rushing offense, it's the best in the NFC by far. It's best in the league.
No.
Cleveland and Tennessee.
Cleveland, Baltimore, and Tennessee are the best rushing teams.
So I would possibly put them above Tennessee, but I still think, 60-40 Tennessee. But Cleveland runs a better two-back system than Dallas. But going to Dallas's two running back system, Zeke is already one rushing touchdown away from his last year total, and we're at week 5, and he played all games except for one last year.
Last year was his worst season by far.
Right. Tony Pollard, right? That's his last. I was about to call him Ty Pollard. Tony Pollard. 100 yards away from his rushing total from last year. Again, playing nearly every single game. He's a third-year back. The fact that Tony Pollard is going to have a career year, at least so far in his career, he may borderline be, 700 rushing yards while Zeke gets over 1,000. This may very well be that good of a rushing team.
Yeah, he's one of the most efficient runners. He has great yards per carry average, so he doesn't get a ton.
I'm excited for Tony Pollard in the future to have this much production in the backfield behind Ezekiel Elliott, he can go anywhere in this league and be a number one back if he keeps progressing at this rate. But I'm talking a lot about the rushing. I want to talk about everything outside the rushing. This team can pass. This team can play defense. This team can play very well, a very good pass defense. We're going to talk about that in a second. But this Cowboys team, like, they have almost no holes. They have arguably the best passing attack in the league behind Tampa Bay as of right now. I mean, this Cowboys team's looking like the easy favorite out of the NFC West. We thought Washington was going to be able to compete with them, but, everyone's got a huge question mark on Washington's part. But this Cowboys team, they're basically the Cleveland of the NFC, but they have a better record. They have arguably played better football. I would put my chips in Dak's corner more than Baker Mayfield's. This is the Cleveland Browns, but better.
Yeah, I mean, what's the Cowboys record? Are they 4-1? Yeah, they're 4-1. Wow.
And one game they lost was against the Super Bowl champions on a game-winning field.
Yeah. I mean, they're certainly, and I think the thing with the Cowboys, they're always so, overrated to the point that they may have been underrated. They were like actually being talked about as this great team, everything, and it was like we haven't seen it. Let's see it. But Dak Prescott's certainly up there. The defense has added enough pieces to be competitive, and Zeke, who looked kind of maybe possibly over the hill last year, has put together a really good season. So yeah, I mean they're certainly a team to watch, and they're playing really well. I want to move on to
Zeke and Dak's rookie year. Probably not, but it's getting close to that.
Yeah, I mean the receivers, which the receivers are great too. Dalton Schultz stepping up, but I want to talk about another NFC East team, and it was something that you didn't believe me on last week, and that's that the Philly defense is actually pretty good. I warned you of that. I said, they're cooking something. They obviously got torched by the Chiefs, but that doesn't mean that you're as bad as the Chiefs defense. But
even torched, yeah, they allowed 42 points, but they only lost by 12. So,
but I mean, defense, sure, but. Yeah, torched on defense, and I'm just talking about the defense because the offense looked pretty bad at times. Obviously, they were able to come away with the win, but especially that first half, the offense was just miserable. But 3 picks, 3 sacks, 1 blocked kick against Carolina. They held Darnold to 177 yards passing, and like I mentioned, those 3 interceptions. They've got 11 sacks, which is top half of the league, tied for 11th. And the offense probably has a little bit of ways to go. Figure out how to use Jalen Hurts. Maybe get some better weapons. Use Miles Sanders. What they're doing with him is just so weird. But the defense is pretty legit. We've seen a great Philadelphia defense recently. Obviously that year they won the Super Bowl. Their defense was incredible, and they're kind of back to that with a great defensive line. Fletcher Cox still there. Javon Hargrave's playing incredible at that defensive tackle position, and then throw in some Darius Slay and some decent guys in the back, secondary and at linebacker, and you've got a pretty decent group. Obviously, we'll see them get tested some more, especially in those games with the Cowboys. But I don't think it means anything. They're not going to compete for anything. They might just not be terrible, but the defense is pretty good.
I think Nick Sirianni is doing for this Eagles team what I'm hoping Dan Campbell does for the Lions. I think a lot of people counted out both of these coaches in the offseason. Nick Sirianni did not have a great preseason presser. Dan Campbell obviously made a ton of memes with biting off kneecaps and things like that. But I was wrong about the Eagles defense. But like you said, this team is not close to competing in the postseason, especially in the division that they're in right now, with Dallas being the top team, obviously, going forward. The Giants, who I'll talk about here in a second.
But Philly could end up number 2 in that division. Like, not out of the realm of possibility.
It's a coin flip for me with them in Washington, but I'm still giving – I don't know. Honestly, I don't know if I can give the edge to Washington with how, their defense has been performing. So the Eagles, yes, they could have a very good performing defense, multiple takeaways, multiple sacks against the Panthers. It is really just, giving this team great field position, going into offense for Jalen Hurts and then going like, okay, Jalen, here's the ball. You have less than 50 yards to go. Go score. Then he throws a pick. All right, we'll go get another stop. We'll get you the ball back in a second. Just stay put. Then let's say they get a fumble in their own red zone or something like that. They get a touchback or whatever. All right, Jalen. We don't have any points and it's almost halftime. Let's get something going. Like, they're going to have to put a lot into Jalen's hands to be like, okay, we're going to keep giving him the ball. You got to keep putting something together. I mean, at least Justin Fields can put together one passing touchdown this last week. And if Jalen Hurts can't put together a passing touchdown with the amount of times he got the ball off of turnovers, then that's an issue. But Jalen Hurts as being kind of a multi-dimensional quarterback with more on the running side. I'm not saying he's kind of on a Lamar Jackson level or anything, but there is potential there. They need another draft. They need another offseason. Give them 1 or 2 years if they can maintain all the personnel on defense, and they could be that team.
Yeah, I know you want to talk about another NFC East team.
Yeah, so I was wrong about the Eagles' defense. You were wrong about really the rest of Daniel Jones' season because I don't think he's really going to play that much.
Just a concussion. So,
well, it seems to be kind of the trend with the Giants because I think the Giants may have very well injured their entire chances of having a good season. They've injured their way down to a top 5 pick in next year's draft.
I think they might have had that top 5 pick without the injuries.
I don't know. Based off of what you were saying last weekend, they could have been like a 6-7 win team, but
maybe. Hey, Daniel Jones was playing well. That's indisputable. He was having a good season before.
But without Daniel Jones and now without Saquon for the second straight year.
Well, we'll see. We'll see with Saquon. Just an ankle sprain looked gross, but
without Daniel Jones and without Saquon, what is this team? I mean, they obviously need more help in multiple departments. Daniel Jones may be the quarterback next year, may very well not be, but they're going to be in the top. They're going to be in the top 5 of next year's draft just because of this last week with all the injuries. Saquon Barkley, Kenny Golladay, and Daniel Jones. Will any of them come back later on the season? Most likely, but this team can't piece anything together, and the NFC East is taken off without them, and they are easily the bottom team in the division and possibly one of the worst teams in the NFC.
Yeah, I mean, as a guy who had Daniel Jones and Kenny Golladay in my fantasy lineup, definitely hurt. It hurt a lot. I was playing against Justin Herbert, so I probably, doesn't matter if they played, but that would certainly, that certainly hurt. But I forgot to hit this at the start, but one of our wagers was that Daniel Jones would throw an interception, and he didn't.
Yeah, because he played like 10 plays, but
he played like almost a half, so we can know that. But the other one's Kyle Pitts, 10 fantasy points. He had like 22. So
Kyle Pitts proved me wrong. Too bad he was playing at 6 a.m. and no one watched him. So
and then we had an Allen Mahomes fantasy point bet that you won with Allen. So with the Daniel Jones one, I win, but we'll figure that out. But I want to go on to my last takeaway, be real quick as we move on to our other stuff as we're running out of time. But how did I word it? Green Bay has what it takes. Yeah, I mean they're getting to the point where I, might think I'm getting close to saying they're the team to beat in the NFC, and they're playing really well. I think they are what we thought the Chiefs could be and should be. That offense is dynamic. That offense, can do everything it needs to do, and the defense is, like I said, good enough. If we take out that first week, which obviously is just an anomaly for them. It is not what this team is. Their opponents have averaged just 21 points, which would be over 5 games, a bottom 10, a top 10 in that sense. Defense. So their defense has playmakers, especially in that secondary. Jair Alexander is one of the best corners in the game, and then Aaron Rodgers and Devonte Adams are invincible. That, Devonte Adams just cannot be guarded. He, catches everything. He is incredible. He had, 100 yards and a touchdown in the first half, ended up with over 200 yards. Just like I said a few weeks ago, those two might be enough, but they're putting together a solid rest of the team. The other receivers are stepping up, so they're getting close to, being that team for me in the NFC.
I think this team has not done anything that's surprised me more than last year or the year beforehand. I mean, like the Packers to me still don't have a higher ceiling than the NFC Championship, because I've seen it for the past 3 years that they cannot win when the lights are on them in the Conference Championship. So this team is not doing anything outstanding to me that makes.
But they were a fourth down, stop away from, getting there last year. Like, it's not like they're going to blow it out. At the end of the day, all you can ask for is to be one of those top few teams with a chance to win it all. And then a few things go differently. You're in the Super Bowl, you're winning the Super Bowl. So, the fact that they're getting there is enough. Saying, you're capping them at, top 4, that's pretty good. You just need a ball to bounce your way and you're in the Super Bowl.
Am I putting them above the Cardinals? No. Am I putting them above the Rams? No. Am I putting them above the Cowboys? No.
I mean, you can't. So you're saying that
No.
So you're saying that based on what the Packers have done the past 2 years, you can't put them above teams that haven't even won a playoff game in the past few years?
I think the Packers are just playing, or let me rephrase that. I think the Green Bay Aaron Rodgers are playing just petty football. Like, Aaron Rodgers is not playing to win, so to speak. I know that sounds kind of crappy.
I think he is.
Him to Devonte Adams, that is all this team is relying on, because even
he just threw 2 touchdown passes to Randall Cobb.
They should have, yes, they had to resort to a former Green Bay Packer receiver to try to get Aaron Rodgers as comfortable as possible with this team. But he's not going to be a Packer next year, because the same drama is going to happen to him again. I mean, didn't you say his MVP campaign last year was just based off of, pettiness off of the first round draft pick with Jordan Love? So they don't really care about Aaron Rodgers, because this happens every year. They're a great team. But then in the playoffs, they won't win. Everybody will blame everybody else but Aaron Rodgers, which, is kind of deserving. And then Aaron Rodgers is going to go to a different team, or they're going to bring everybody back, convince them to stay, and then we'll do the same thing next year. Nothing about this team is exemplary enough, like the Rams with their not only great defense but great offense. Tampa Bay picking up right where they left off. Cardinals playing extremely high caliber football. I don't see this Packers team being the team to beat in the NFC, because there's 4 or 5 teams that I would consider are better than them.
I mean, putting Dallas and Arizona, I guess they're the hot hand right now, but Dallas ahead of them is, I think that's pretty stupid, because Dallas is a team that has done literally nothing in this freaking decade. So if you're going off track record, Green Bay was a top 4 team last year.
And Green Bay last made it to the Super Bowl, almost a decade ago?
I mean, yeah. When was the last time Dallas did? When was the last time, Arizona did? I mean, you're going to start throwing out that. If you get to the final 8, the final 4, that's about all. I can throw it out there when sometimes
the quarterback who made the Super Bowl last for them is still the quarterback that they have now.
Yeah, that's Aaron Rodgers. He's still there. He's done it before. He's playing great. The Packers look good. We're going to go on to our stars of the weekend. We're going to go through them pretty quickly as we're kind of getting crunched for time. So maybe just, give me your 1 or 2 sentence kind of knock here. I'm going to start with my third star. I don't know if we've given one out to somebody in a loss before, but I'm doing it maybe for the first time. Davis Mills looked really good. 21 for 28 or 29 for 312 yards and 3 touchdowns against the Pats. Almost got him the win. Obviously did not, but really close. And, Bill Belichick does not lose to rookie quarterbacks. But he's actually played better than any quarterback. Davis Mills played better than any rookie quarterback that has beat Belichick. Obviously, I didn't look through all of them, but he played really well against a Patriots team that's good at stopping rookies. So if you would have got the win, I would have elevated him a bit more. But, I got to shout out a guy who is playing on just a dismal team and put up a pretty good performance.
Considering last weekend he had one of the worst quarterback outings that I've seen in recent memory. And then he comes out, throws almost 300 yards, multiple passes.
Over 300, 312.
Oh, I'm looking at somebody else's. Yeah. Okay. Over 300. Actually put some scores on the board, and I don't think he had any interceptions. He may have had one.
No, I don't think so.
Coming off of 4 interceptions to 0 against the New England Patriots.
Yeah.
Belichick doesn't lose to rookie quarterbacks. Rookie quarterbacks don't play well against.
I mean, he scored more points than Brady and the Bucks did. Obviously, there's a lot of rain and stuff. I'm not making that comparison, but this is a defense that still is pretty decent.
Belichick probably went Super Saiyan on the side to try to coach the game. But I give credit to Davis Mills too. I think that was a great outing from him. Going to the team that beat Davis Mills quite badly last year, the Bills, my third star, I got to give credit to Dawson Knox. Not only for last night, but just as of late, Dawson Knox has been absolutely killing it. He had his career high in yards against the Chiefs last night, as well as his career high in receiving touchdowns the other game against Houston for 2 receiving touchdowns. He's kind of like one of the top 10 tight ends in the league right now, at least performance-wise. I mean, we don't really know a whole lot about him talent-wise since he's been in the league for, I believe this is like his 3rd or 4th year. But he was drafted by this Sean McDermott coaching staff in this Bills front office. So I got to give credit to Dawson Knox for being such a underrated target for Josh Allen and one of the best passing offenses in the league. Everybody's going to be focusing on Stephon Diggs, and then Emmanuel Sanders came up, so they're focusing on him. Cole Beasley's been almost irrelevant these past couple of games. Then Dawson Knox comes out there, and he's looking like a really good tight end these past couple of games, but over 100 yards leading the team in receiving last night in the win against the Chiefs. It was an awesome job.
Yeah, he's certainly coming out. Top 10 tight ends is, much easier to break into than any other position, but he's playing well. He's emerging as, a guy for Josh Allen to throw to. I'm going to move on to my second star, Austin Eckler. If you score a game-winning touchdown, but you didn't want to score the game-winning touchdown, do you still get the credit for that? Because, that was just a crazy play. He slid down, and then he was kind of like just trying not to go in, and the Browns defenders pushed him into the end zone. It was one of the funnier plays I've ever seen, the defense pushing an opposing player into the end zone. So scored the game-winning touchdown a bit reluctantly, but he had 66 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns, 5 receptions for 53 yards and a touchdown. He's got, more fantasy points. He's increased his fantasy point production every game. I've got him on one of my teams. It's great. And, he's breaking into that upper echelon of running backs. He wasn't in the same conversation as a lot of these guys last year, but he's the number 2 fantasy running back right now behind Derrick Henry, which is a pretty good spot to be if you ask me. So Austin Eckler, announcing himself as the rest of this Chargers team does as well. But, he's playing really well. A bit of a, season accomplished award. But, if you score a game-winning touchdown, I'll give you a little bump here.
Since Austin Eckler has been so hot recently as a top 10 back in the league, probably, so far, he's never had a 1,000-yard rushing season, and we're talking this highly of him. I think that says something.
He's almost had 1,000 yards receiving, though. I think a year or 2 ago. He was short. So, yeah, he's a good back.
So the fact that he has this much praise with stats that don't necessarily back him up, it's just really a lot of the talent in his receiving game. It obviously exceeds this Chargers team in being one of the top teams in the league because I think a lot of people are focusing on Justin Herbert, but then you think, oh, crap, they have Austin Eckler as well. I forgot about that. I think he's a little forgotten in this offense a bit, but 2 or 3 total touchdowns this last
3
yesterday, yeah. So he had 2 rushing, 1 receiving, I want to say.
Yeah.
But he's a multi-dimensional back he's doing what Christian McCaffrey would be doing right now, but he's doing it in the AFC. Yeah. I'm not going to start a CMC Austin Eckler debate at all, but yes, I will give him credit for this weekend. He's playing awesome. My second star of the weekend has to be Trayvon Diggs, considering he's on track for mean, he's on track to be one of the highest interception. He's on track to have one of the highest interception totals of the year.
I mean,
ever.
He's on track. He's on track. I mean, he's getting a pick in every game. So yeah, he gets 17 interceptions, 18 interceptions. That would certainly break the record.
The record's like 16 or 17.
I think it's 14. Paul Krause in like the 60s.
I thought it was Night Train Lane that had the
maybe. I think Paul Krause might be career, but yeah, it's like 14 or something.
Well, when's the last time someone's gotten double-digit interceptions? Because I can't.
Xavier Howard had 10 last year.
Oh, really? Okay. So double-digit interceptions, I think is capable for Trayvon Diggs. Like the only question mark with Dallas these past couple of years was like, yeah, Dak's good, yeah, Ezekiel Elliott's good, yeah, Amari Cooper's good. What about the defense? And then people would go, oh, well, DeMarcus Lawrence, okay, what about the defense? Oh, Van Der Esch, okay, what about the defense? Mm-hmm. And Trayvon Diggs has come in and has redefined this Dallas secondary to make them look like one of the top teams in the NFC. I have to give credit to Trayvon Diggs, who's keeping this interception streak going on. If he gets an interception this next game, I mean, I almost kind of want to start a counter for him. How many games he can go in a row with an interception. I'm sure people are going to avoid him at all costs this next weekend, but I hope he keeps the streak alive and gets well over double-digit interceptions. He's playing awesome.
I mean, unfortunately, he couldn't do it against Daniel Jones. He had to wait for Mike Glennon to come in. But, I mean, at what point do just teams start, just not throwing at him? I don't know. We'll have to see. But I'm trying to see. It says he's close to the 14. That's Night Train Lane. That's the record. So he's almost halfway there. But yeah, him and Micah Parsons coming in and just creating a good Dallas Cowboys defense is certainly incredible. I'm going to give my 3 stars to Tom Brady. I don't think I've acknowledged him here yet, but when you're in your 21st season in the NFL and you do something for the first time, that's incredible. And 400 yards, 5 passing touchdowns, is good enough to get you this honor, any week or any time. But the fact that it's the first time he's ever done it is just pretty incredible. And, that game last week was not what he was probably hoping for. Obviously got the win, led the comeback, but, he might have been playing a bit angry, but he came out and just threw the ball all over the Miami Dolphins. People thought that Brian Flores was going to be able to do some Patriots defense magic, but it didn't work. And Tom Brady at, a spry 44 years old is, looking as good as ever.
When I read the box score or the stats for that game against Miami, I'm like, oh, wow, 45-17. How good did Tom Brady do? No turnovers, 400-plus yards passing, 5 passing touchdowns, 200-yard receivers. One of them, Chris Godwin, who had 70, multiple touchdowns to multiple receivers, and sure, give Leonard Fournette a rushing touchdown as well. Yeah. But Tom Brady, why do you got to do Miami like that? I mean, he knows how to play Miami more than any of the players on this team. He's played them plenty of times in his career, but my gosh, and
until the guy you're about to talk about came around, he was looking like the biggest stud of the weekend, which I still think he's up there. But then your guy decided to go off.
Justin Herbert, man, he's without a doubt following the trend of second-year quarterbacks. He's playing outstanding. He's had really just a ton of doubters since he's come into the league, but every single week, less and less doubters come out of the shadows.
I want to meet anybody who's still doubting him right now because I want to know what they're seeing.
It's probably like Oregon State fans, I imagine.
I guess.
Maybe WSU fans. But the fact that he could go against Cleveland and put up 47 points, 5 total touchdowns for Justin Herbert. Yes, Austin Eckler played a great game, but really just this Chargers team played a great game when you're going to put almost 50 points up against the Cleveland Browns. So Justin Herbert, 2 yards away from 400 passing yards, but 4 passing touchdowns, a rushing touchdown, 0 turnovers. The turnovers are the biggest thing to me, considering Justin Herbert is, like we all predicted, playing even better with a very dynamic Los Angeles team. He's shocking a lot of people, and he's following his destiny, to a T.
Yeah. And, first off, I hope WSU fans aren't hating on him because they actually beat Justin Herbert a few times. So we've got no ill will towards him. Maybe some UW fans are a little annoyed. And then another thing, he's doing the second year breakout, but the thing about him is he broke out in year one. I mean, he threw 31 touchdown passes last year. Like, obviously Mahomes and Lamar and some of these guys might have been able to do it year one, but he did it year one. This is just continuing that trajectory, and he's, just a stud. And we'll go quickly into our little MVP update. We're going to, hit this from time to time, just give you a rundown of kind of our top 5 guys. We won't talk about it too much because we're getting close to the end here, and we've hit on a few of them already. But, the biggest, and, we agree on almost everybody. And the only disagreement we have is you have Matthew Stafford at 5. I have Derrick Henry at 5. And honestly, I could put Matthew Stafford there. I just wanted to show Derrick Henry some love because he's playing like an absolute beast. But we both have Kyler Murray, Justin Herbert, Josh Allen, and Tom Brady in our top 4, albeit in a bit of a different order. But yeah, I mean, you can say what you want to say here. I mean, yeah, like I said, we don't have to spend too much time on it since we've talked about, all these guys quite a bit.
So I will still throw points towards Matt Stafford being in 5th place, considering he was the MVP favorite after week 3 for us, unanimously. He's had, back-to-back kind of rough games, if you will. So he's not the favorite, so to speak, but I still think he's a top 5 option. And at the end of the day, it's a quarterback. It's a quarterback award unless someone's doing incredible things like Adrian Peterson almost 10 years ago.
I mean, the thing I'll say about Derrick Henry, he is on pace to break the all-time single-season rushing record. Obviously, the extra game helps. But so my thing with him is, like, if you challenge that record, I think you should be in that conversation. And if you beat that record, it's going to suck if he beats that record and does not win the MVP.
If he's on track to beating that record going into week 10, then I think he has a little bit better of a chance.
Sure. Yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, at the end of the day, any of these 4 quarterbacks, if they keep playing the way they are, they're going to beat him out for it, especially with the Titans not being that top tier team and all these other teams, being Super Bowl contenders. But I just want to give him some love because, like I said, I like to kind of have a different guy in that 5 spot. I like to give, some recognition elsewhere. And, I mean, I'm a big Matthew Stafford guy. I've been a Matthew Stafford guy since the offseason. I'm still big on the Rams. But yeah, Stafford, I mean, I had him up there until I decided, let's throw Derrick Henry in there because he's incredible.
But we have 2 different favorites going on now going into week 5. It was a little different than our list a couple weeks ago. You think it's Kyler Murray. I think it's Justin Herbert. And I think it is very close. You may think it's not as close as I do, excuse me. But Kyler Murray being at 1 for you and Justin Herbert being at 4, I have Kyler Murray at 2, Justin Herbert at 1. I think the only thing that Justin Herbert has over Kyler going on right now is passing the football, obviously. Kyler Murray is obviously a better, running threat than Justin Herbert, but even Justin Herbert has been getting it done on the ground as well. And also the turnovers don't help Kyler's case really much at all. And they are very dynamic with the people that they target. They're not just targeting one person like Aaron Rodgers. But I think that this is very close. I think Justin Herbert has the edge, just considering the storyline that's following him. But then again, Kyler Murray's undefeated. I think this is really close as of right now. We'll see how it goes in a few weeks here. But we both have Josh Allen at 3. I think Josh Allen, this is definitely the record that's killing him because, again, I think he's a better passer than Kyler Murray. But
I don't know where there's
has to give him some
better passer than Kyler Murray's coming from here. Because I think, obviously, other than the 5-0, which as long as Kyler Murray stays 5-0, he's probably going to be. If
Kyler Murray's undefeated this year, then boom, give it to him.
But I think, what Kyler Murray is doing is Kyler Murray is with efficiency. That's the thing. He, his yardage, he's 5th in yardage. So he's above Josh Allen. He's, 60-something yards below Justin Herbert, but he's got a 75% completion percentage. Justin Herbert's at 67. Josh Allen is at Oh, at 62, QBR, Kyler Murray's leading in QBR. And so that's the thing is, that's the type of stuff that I think perseveres over the season. If he keeps that efficiency up, it's going to be incredible. He's adding it on the ground as well with 3 rushing touchdowns, and that team's undefeated. So that's, where I've gone, because he's not just, everybody's throwing up yards, there's a lot of guys throwing up yards. But the fact that Kyler Murray is doing it with an efficiency that is unmatched right now is where I really think sets him apart.
I mean, Justin Herbert's coming out here and beating big teams. Obviously, he didn't beat the Rams like Kyler Murray did, and that whole Cardinals team is playing fantastic right now. But Justin Herbert took down the Chiefs. They lost one game to the Cowboys, and it was a close game.
Yeah, but the Chiefs have now lost to quite a few people, so that's really diminishing that achievement from Herbert.
Justin Herbert's got a lot on his plate, and he is proving everybody wrong. We all thought that he was going to be on somewhat of a down year or something, in the first 2 weeks. He's not putting up 300 plus yards per game like we thought he was going to. Well, now he's playing like that guy. And Kyler Murray went through a little bit of a bump as well. So they're not perfect quarterbacks by any means, but Justin Herbert, I can see only going up considering his low was earlier in the season than Kyler Murray.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. And like the one guy in that group we have not mentioned, Tom Brady, I've got him up there. He's got 15 passing touchdowns, which is one below the leader in Mahomes. He's, first in yards. So, I mean, I looked at this the other day. He's on pace to shatter his passing attempts season high by a bunch. And this is a 17-game season, even for a 16-game season, he's still on pace to have over 100 more attempts than he's had in any season in his career, including one where he throws 50 touchdowns. So the fact that he's doing that at 44, I mean, we know how much of a narrative award this is. And so, I mean, just the fact that he's doing this at 44, I mean, his production, if you, didn't even have the name or anything attached to it, people would still think is arguably the most impressive out of anybody. And the fact that, we can't ignore that he's 44 and, doing this still is just incredible. So he's going to be up there as long as he can keep that up.
And don't count out Josh Allen.
No. I mean,
right there in the race with him. I think he was my pick before the season started. It's nice to see that it's still, in the limelight, but
Kyler Murray was my pick. Let's see what the odds are. Josh Allen and Kyler Murray have the top 2 odds right now, followed by Dak Prescott and Justin Herbert, and then tied, and then Tom Brady
in third.
Dak Prescott and Justin Herbert have the same odds, so tied.
Ooh.
Dak
interesting.
Prescott should get some love up there too, 4-1, and they're incredible. And my only thing with Josh Allen is, he vaulted into my top group this week because he finally got a good win, which the schedule just played out that way. But, the wins he just has up until this point weren't enough when you're comparing it, such early on in the season. You just got to look at big wins, and, Kyler Murray, Justin Herbert, they've got the big wins that Josh Allen did not. But now Josh Allen does, and he played absolutely, perfect against the Chiefs. So, it's still early, 12 more games to go, but, we'll check in on this occasionally, see who perseveres. I mean, last year at this time, Russell Wilson was, in it, if not the front runner, and, he kind of fell off. So we'll see.
It was Russell, and then it was Kyler, and then Aaron Rodgers took it and ran.
Yep.
Maybe
Josh Allen was close to
it again. Who knows?
I mean, Aaron Rodgers, he's playing well. There's a lot of good quarterbacks. We're going to quickly go to the Monday Night Football preview. As I sound like a broken record, but we're running out of time. Don't want to go too long, but Colts at Ravens. Baltimore is a 7.5-point favorite. Indianapolis coming off their first win of the season, getting that single digit in the win column against the Dolphins, and Baltimore, coming off a game against the Broncos where they, kind of asserted their dominance. So I like Baltimore in this. I like them to cover, win by a score. I think, Indianapolis has a lot of issues at quarterback and elsewhere, and Baltimore. It's kind of there's a few teams. It's a category that the Seahawks aren't really in. It's good teams that just always beat bad teams. The Chiefs are in it. The Patriots, when they had Brady, like there's just these good teams that don't lose to bad teams, and I think Baltimore's in it. They're just one of these sound teams that they always do what they have to do. They're a team that could lose to another similarly talented team. I forget who their loss is to this year. It's slipping my mind.
Raiders.
The Raiders, yeah. That was week 1, yeah. And so maybe that's a little bit, but the Raiders aren't a bad team. But a team like the Colts, I just don't see the Ravens losing to.
Oh yeah, it's going to be a Ravens win. I'm more so looking at the Ravens to kind of show us who they are in terms of the top teams of the league. Because if you rank, the top 10 teams of the league, the Ravens would be on that list. But are they in the top 10 or are they in the top 5? I think this game can kind of differentiate. Are they one of the top teams or are they one of the top teams?
Yeah, they certainly can look different, from week to week, which makes it kind of difficult, because Lamar Jackson is not. Yeah, I mean, he sometimes looks like a great passer. Sometimes it looks like you can figure him out. I still think he's an incredible guy, an incredible player who can easily be in an MVP conversation and after this week or whatever with his skill set. But yeah, they can kind of look different from week to week. The Chiefs kind of always look the same. Some of the Bucs kind of always look the same. Even the Packers, but the Ravens can kind of look differently. So I'm interested to see what they do. But this should be not that they're off track, but kind of like they did last week. They should just put it together, just win in dominating fashion, and kind of leave no doubt as to who the better team is.
The fact that Lamar Jackson only has 6 total touchdowns, which is well under the average for the other top tier quarterbacks, and 3 interceptions. He's almost neck and neck with touchdowns and receptions, and he has 4 fumbles, 2 of them lost. So he's not been his regular MVP self, which is very rarely are back-to-back MVP candidates, right?
But he's winning games, which counts for.
But that's what I was about to say. Is that sure? 3 of his 4 passing touchdowns have gone to Marquise Brown. There's not really a whole lot of diversity in the offense.
He's also thrown some passing touchdowns to Marquise Brown that Marquise Brown dropped. So
that, and they've gone through injury Armageddon at the running back spot and other spots. So yes, Lamar Jackson has not been playing a tremendous game, but it's the winning games part that's getting, because this was kind of a similar conversation revolving around Russell Wilson for a while. Was that Russell Wilson was a great quarterback following the Super Bowl, but the Seahawks know how to win games. They know how to win the game, whatever it takes. Is it running the ball? Is it passing the ball? Is it playing good defense? They will win games. Some teams just have their identity. Like Cleveland is going to run the ball. Kansas City is going to throw the ball. Buffalo is going to throw the ball. They have their go-to. What's the Ravens' go-to? We don't necessarily know, other than we have Lamar Jackson taking the ball, throwing it, and they're easily their leading rusher.
It was going to be – I mean, they're still a run identity team, but if they had J.K. Dobbins or even Gus Edwards, they certainly would be leaning more toward that. I think they're really leaning super heavily on Lamar Jackson, which means a little more throwing.
And I think he's young enough and good enough to take on that load, as opposed to Aaron Rodgers, where Aaron Rodgers could do that 9 times out of 10. Is it really going to take him anywhere? Lamar Jackson has had, little by little more, playoff experience going into this year. I know that the Ravens are your favorite going into this postseason.
They were my preseason AFC pick.
They are going to be a quiet team for a while. I think it's very interesting to see that they could be a 4-1 team after tonight, and not a lot of people are going to be talking about them. Not a lot of people are going to put them in the top 5. A little bit more will put them in the top 10. And Lamar Jackson is still going to have a whole lot of haters at the end of the day. But this Ravens team could very well hijack the AFC North before we know it, be one of the top teams in the AFC. But Monday night, prime time, we had to see Lamar come out and not not only win, but show that you are a team to be reckoned with.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, you lose to the Raiders, and people are going to be like, oh, well, the Raiders are a hot team. And then the other side will be like, oh, we lost to the Raiders. Can't believe it. Go out there, show the Colts how you do it, beat them by double digits, score 30-plus points, show them that you are one of the top teams in the league, because Indianapolis is not.
Yeah, and that's what I'm expecting. You know, I think we're both in line here with the Ravens winning, so we'll see how that one plays out. You know, who knows? Big surprise coming for the Colts? Probably not, but, you know, we will see about that. But that's going to do it for us. We will be back with you on Thursday to preview Week 6 of the NFL season, and then back with you a week from now again to recap Week 6. You know, preview and recap. Just keep it rolling, baby, as we go through this season. But remember to follow Dash Sports.
Season so far.
Yeah,
I love it.
No, for sure. Remember to follow Dash Sports on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, as well as subscribe to the Dash Sports YouTube channel for our shows and clips. And check out some of the other dashboard properties as we're, you know, going through the Pac-12 and some other sports as that starts to heat up. But, you know, come back in and check in with us on Thursday. Bring your fantasy football questions, as you know, some people in the chat dropped last week. I hope we helped some people out. But until then,